Tell me please about working permit and what the documents we need to prepare for this process.
Okay, so there are several types of immigration permit application that a third country national can now apply.
What the difference between process like limited and, for example, international company?
My client had a real intention of permanently staying here.
What do you think, where it could be changed? Today with us, Pantelitsa Nicolaou. She's a lawyer in KPK Legal, and we ask several questions about the migration processes and different way to set up this process. Hi.
Hello.
Pantelitsa, what do you think? There is lots of people moving to the island. The last 3 years, the analytics show us around 400,000 moved to Cyprus. The most of them come to Limassol, other in Nicosia, Larnaca, and Paphos.
Yes.
All these people, they are third country citizens, and they need to apply for different type of permits. Tell me, please, what type of permits we have now in Cyprus?
Okay, so there are several types of immigration permit application that a third country national can now apply. It depends on the purpose. For example, if the third country national is now coming to Cyprus to work, there is a process that he can have a company here in Cyprus and be an employee of this company. An alternative way to obtain a residence permit here in Cyprus is through the investment program, the permanent residence application through an investment. There are, of course, other type of applications for short-term immigration visa, like the pink slip, which, however, is now more difficult to obtain due to the strict requirements set forth by the legislation and the strict approach by the immigration authorities.
Okay, tell me please about working permit, how the procedure is looking for, who can apply, and what the documents we need to prepare for this process.
Okay, so a company, to be eligible to employ third country national employees, it should first acquire a license to be considered as a company of foreign interest. This license is acquired by the Business Facilitation Unit, which is the relevant department. And the most important requirement is that the ultimate beneficial owner makes an investment into the bank account of the company equal to 200,000 euros. So as a first step, the company should open a bank account and go through the due diligence process of the banks. As soon as the investment is made into the bank account of the company by the ultimate beneficial owner, then the company can apply to the Business Facilitation Unit and grant its license. Thereafter, we may submit work permit application for the potential employees of the company, but it's very important for the employers to know that there is a specific limit, a percentage that they should provide for Cypriot and European employees up until 2026. So it cannot only be third country nationals in the company. They should at some point onboard Cypriots or Europeans.
What is the solution in Cyprus? Do we have the employees who can be so qualified to be employed in the company? And could it be only like top management, or it need to be very like full specialities in the company?
So you mean about the job position that we can specify in the employment agreement? We need to build the profile of the third country national by means of submitting to the authorities the CV, accompanied by the academic qualifications, either a university degree or a master's degree, or alternatively, we can provide reference letters by previous employers declaring previous experience in that specific field. It can be director position, it can be key personal position, middle manager position, it can be anything that can be proved also by the profile of the employee. So we cannot, for example, present an employment agreement for directorship position if the applicant has not any experience or qualifications for this position. So it should be aligned, the employment agreement with the experience of the applicant and his qualification.
Nice. Let's speak about timeline and the processes of employment, the people, what they need to prepare, what the documents, and what the procedure.
Okay, so the process involves the submission of an application to the Civil Registry and Migration Department in Nicosia. We book the appointment, so we know the date that we are going to Nicosia, and we take with us the passport, the original passport of the employee, together with accompanying documents. The documents can be clean criminal record from the country of origin, which should be translated, an apostille. We need the employment agreement, of course, rental agreement, health insurance, medical test. So the third country national should go blood test, undergo blood test and chest x-ray result, just to prove that there is no disease to bring a risk into the Republic of Cyprus. As mentioned before, we need to provide CV, reference letter, and that's it.
Do they need to open their bank account and transfer some money or not?
The employees themselves do not need to open a bank account before they apply for a work permit application. They might need to do so afterwards because they will need to receive some salaries in Cyprus. We've seen, however, cases where the monthly salaries have been receiving from Revolut. This is an option as well.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, please, what the level of salaries need to be counted in the international company in Cyprus?
That's a very good question, because if we are talking about third country nationals, the salary cannot be just any salary decided between the parties. There is a minimum, a requirement of 2,500 euros per month. This is the gross monthly salary, and it cannot be lower than that, whatever the position is.
What the salary level of the top management of these companies?
The minimum requirements apply for any position, even for the directors.
Perfect. And tell me, please, what the timeline? Because all people who move to Cyprus, they expecting to apply for the work permit immediately and get it for 2 weeks, but it's not true.
Look, it's a good question, because we've faced during summer many such urgent requests. Truth is that it's very difficult when it's high season, whereby we have a lot of incomings from abroad, but it can be within 2 weeks if we have everything, if we have all the information and all the documents that we require in advance. We can require by email, of course, so the interested party can collect. We can do the process even in 1 week, if we're lucky, and finalize everything.
Perfect. Let's speak about the owners of international company. You told that they need to transfer 200,000 from a third country to their bank account of Cyprus Bank.
Yes.
All these 200,000, do they froze it or they can use it like the operational costs?
This is again a very common question. First of all, the UBO of the company should be third country national, and the money should come from abroad into the bank account of the company. The answer here is that there is no requirement to keep the money frozen. This money can be utilized for the business operations of the company at any moment. There is no immigration restriction or any law that requires that the money is kept for a precise period of time into the bank account of the company. So the owner can utilize the amount at any time to facilitate the operations of the company.
Perfect. And let's speak about the compliance and due diligence which bank requires from the owners for open the bank account. What the documents they need to prepare and what strategy you use for this?
Okay. Depending on the nationality of the third country national, the compliance followed by the bank can be strict or stricter. There is no easy way to go through the compliance of the bank. Things now are very difficult because we have all these AML regulations, the compliance procedures, and we need to provide to the bank all the documents that are required for the opening of the account. Apart from the passport, of course, and reference letter from other banks, whereby the third country national has banking accounts, we need to provide also source of funds, any documents that validate the source of funds of the third country national.
What do you mean when you tell source of funds. It's very important to understand for our clients what it means.
Anything that can prove the source of income. It can be salaries, it can be rent amounts, it can be dividends received as a result of participation in the share capital of any company. It can be any sort of business that is exercised in any country. And this, of course, should be aligned with the financial documentation that are provided by the third country national. For example, the bank account statements that we have from another bank should be in line with the documentation that he presented to us. The employment agreement, the rental agreement, etc.
Could it be investment income from investment companies in Europe or in post-Soviet countries?
If the income is in Europe, then yes, it can be some sort of income, provided again that there is a legal documentation around it that can prove it, and which is considered sufficient for compliance purposes by the bank. If it's from third countries, it will go through the compliance check to be considered as sufficient or not.
Okay, what is timeline to open the bank account?
Truth is, there is no estimation that we can provide safely, because the banks now are very difficult. It can be from 1 month to 1 year.
What the most longest period which you open the bank account for the client?
A year.
A year, yeah? Okay, thanks. The second part, let's speak about the PR, permanent residence. What amount people need to invest in the real estate in Cyprus, and how it could be transferred?
So the amount of the investment for the permanent residence application under the regulation 6.2 is 300,000 euros. If it will be an investment in the real estate for residential purposes, this amount should be subject to the VAT. So it's 300,000 euros plus VAT. The VAT can be at the rate of 19% or 5%.
Oh, it depends on new rules which we get in the May.
Yes. The money can come through a wire transfer and bank transfer into Cyprus, provided that the applicant has opened a bank account.
Could the applicant send the money from abroad, not for his own bank account in Bank of Cyprus, but the bank...
Directly, you mean, to the developer?
Directly to developer, yeah.
Yes, this is of course an option. It depends on the conditions of the contract of sale. Another method that we often use here in Cyprus is the issuance of banker's draft for the purposes of property cases. But one more thing to add is that the applicant has more options to invest. The investment cannot just be in real estate for residential purposes. There are other 3 categories now as per the latest amendment of the law. So the investment can be either in real estate for business purposes, by acquiring hotels, restaurants, shops, anything that can be used for business purposes. It can be investment in the by means of participation in the share capital of a Cyprus company, and therefore transfer of this amount into the bank account of the company, or it can be participation in funds. So the applicant has now 4 options.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what documents are required from applicants for apply to the permanent residence?
Now, apart from the investment that is required under the regulation 6.2, there are additional financial criteria, which is to the declaration of a secured annual income of at least 50,000 euros per applicant, which is increased by each family member. So if it's an applicant and a spouse, the 50,000 euros is increased by 15,000 euros. And the money should derive from sources abroad, should be a secured annual income from any sort of investment, employment, any amount that is received abroad. And from sources other than employment in Cyprus. We have to provide, again, clean criminal record, health insurance, and declaration affidavit by the applicant declaring that he has no intention to work here in Cyprus, because it is a requirement that no employment is provided for a permanent residence applicant.
But in this case, could he be the owner of the beneficiary of the Cyprus company?
Of course, yes. This is an exception, and this is the main difference from the category F, which is another type of permanent residence application in Cyprus, different to the one that we are discussing now.
Okay. And what the timeline about the 6.2 form?
This is the so-called fast-track process, because it takes approximately 6 months to be examined.
And if we speak about the reality?
The reality is up to 9 months.
Because now the migration is very busy, because lots of people moving, and the cases, they're in line, and we need to wait.
Yes, this is true. We have many requests from Ukrainian citizens, from Russian citizens who wish to acquire residency in Cyprus. So yes, you are right. We face some delays by the authorities due to that.
If we compare Ukrainian, Russians, and other like third countries nationalities from like Africa or from South America or from different countries, they need to apply for this kind of permanent residence. What about the Germans and European Union nationals and like British nationals? Do they need another process?
The process for the European Union citizens is completely different and much more simpler comparing to the process we discussed about third country nationals. The British, however, are not included now in this category of European Union citizens. They are now considered as well as third country nationals. Yes, due to the Brexit. So the European Union citizens apply for the so-called yellow slip for acquiring a residency here in Cyprus. If the yellow slip is submitted for employment purposes, we first need to add the European Union citizen on the payroll of the company to start receiving salaries, and the company should proceed with payments to the social insurances department, and then we proceed to register the European Union citizenship with the authorities.
Could the European Union nationals apply for the permanent residence through the program 6.2?
For European Union citizens, there is a process for acquiring a permanent residence in Cyprus without the need of investment. So I wouldn't advise any European to follow any such process, because he has the option to be part of the community here in Cyprus, live here, and apply for a permanent residency upon fulfillment of certain requirements.
Do we have an expired period for permanent residence in Cyprus for a third country and for part of European Union countries?
Yes, for the third country national, there is an expiration date of the residence permit. Usually we do the applications for 3 years, but it's up to the discretion of the authorities to issue the residence permit for the period they consider fit, according to the period of time that the third country national has already spent in Cyprus. So if, for example, a family comes to Cyprus and spend here 3 or 6 months without any visa and then apply to the immigration will see that and will deduct this period from the residence permit validation.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's issued for a period of 2 years, but sometimes...
It's for working permit.
For working permit, yes. Mm-hmm. But sometimes we've seen issuance of permit cards with validity of 1 year or even less than 1 year. It's up to their discretion. And the residence permit of the family members is issued for the period that the permit of the
applicant,
of the main applicant, yes, is issued. Mm-hmm. It cannot be longer than that.
Okay, and what about the permanent residence?
The permanent residence is issued for an undefined period of time. The actual card has a validity of 10 years, like passports and like identity cards, but it's renewable. And as for the Europeans, their right to live in Cyprus is undefined without any limitations.
Very soft solutions for these people.
European Union legislation.
What about procedure of family reunification? What documents are required and what the timeline of this process?
Well, for the purposes of proceeding with family reunification process for the family members of a work permit holder, the most important thing before we apply is that the main applicant is approved by the authorities. We cannot proceed before that. So we cannot proceed with the work permit application on the one day and the other day with the family reunification process, because there are several steps that should occur before that. Apart from the approval of the work permit, another thing to occur first is the payment of at least 1 monthly salary of the applicant, because we need to obtain from the Social Insurance Department a statement of insurable earnings. Another important procedure for this is the issuance of bank guarantees for the family members of the main applicants. And to obtain a bank guarantee from the bank, the main applicant should, of course, open a bank account into his name, a personal bank account. This process usually takes 3 months if the applicant is lucky enough to be accepted by the bank soon. And as soon as we have the bank guarantees issued by the bank, we can then go to the immigration authorities along with some other documents to prove the existence of family bond, marriage certificates, birth certificates, which should of course be apostilled from the country of issuance before they are brought in Cyprus.
Lots of people ask what is apostille, how we can explain what is it.
Apostille basically is the process of validation of a document for being able to be provided and used in another country. Not all countries provide the apostille seal. It's according to an agreement that has been signed between countries across the globe. So if any country does not participate in the apostille agreement, then there is another procedure for validating the document, which is time-consuming and more complicated than the apostille. This process is usually undertaken by the authority that issued the document abroad.
Okay, if, for example, people came to Cyprus and they cannot go out of Cyprus now, and they need apostille of documents, could we help here in Cyprus to make apostille?
It depends on the country of issuance of the documents, but the rule is that the apostille is undertaken in the country whereby the document has been issued. So in that case, maybe an alternative solution would be to courier the documents to some professionals in the country of issuance for undertaking the process abroad. We have undertaken the process from here in Cyprus through the embassies. If the embassies have such process available, it really depends on the embassies.
Okay. Next topic, what I want to discuss is an opened company in Cyprus. Lots of people face with really difficulties to open the bank account and companies to understand which type of companies they need. And we can help them with these questions. So please tell me, if we open the standard Cyprus company, which documents we need to prepare and what's the timeline of this process?
Okay, so the procedure for establishing a Cyprus company in Cyprus is not that complicated. It's a very simple process. The first thing to do is to think of a name of the company. So we can submit a name approval application at the Registrar of Companies. As soon as we have the name approval by the Registrar of Companies, we then proceed to submit the first corporate documents, the forms, and the memorandum and articles of association to the Registrar of Companies. We need to know in advance who is going to be the director, the secretary, the shareholder of the company, where the registered address of the company will be, and what the main operations and business activities of the company will be for the purposes of drafting the documents. As soon as these are ready, we submit these electronically to the Registrar of Companies, and we have the certificates in approximately 8 to 10 business days.
Perfect. Tell me please about the bank account of the company, because in my experience, the registration of the company is very simple way and simple process. The most difficult is to open the bank account, because the bank in Cyprus is not only the bank. It's like government organization which takes whole information from the companies and from the bank about the company's activity and the purpose is to open bank account and to spend money and to receive money from which countries to which countries from which companies to which companies.
Exactly. The applicant should provide all necessary documentation to the bank so that the less question arising from the bank, the better. To provide the full profile, the approximate turnover of the company based on its operations. How is the funding going to be? Who is going to fund the business operations of the company? From where this money will come from? Who is going to be the partners of the company? And where the company will provide the services to within Cyprus, within the European Economic Zone, abroad. All these things will be examined by the bank. And of course, the ultimate beneficial owner will undergo the due diligence process by the bank for the purposes of opening the account.
Okay, what the difference between process of open company and bank account for standard Cyprus companies, like limited, and for example, international company?
Truth is that there is no, by saying international company, I think you mean the company that is licensed by the immigration authorities, correct? The process is the same for both companies. It doesn't really matter to the extent that the UBO is a third country national. The bank will follow and implement the specified processes for the third country national.
One difference is only bank transfer from abroad, about the 200,000.
Yes, but the bank account should first be established for the funding to occur, for the bank transfer to occur.
Let's speak about the pink slip.
Mm-hmm.
What is the type of residence and what people need to do to apply for this, and how long the timeline of this process?
All right. The pink slip is a temporary type of immigration permit that is acquired by third country national, again, who have no intention to work in the Republic of Cyprus. So it's visitor permit, and can be submitted by those who can prove to the authorities that have sufficient funds of at least 24,000 euros per year to finance themselves and their family, and to prove that no employment will occur in the Republic of Cyprus. If I'm being honest, we've noticed the last couple of months that the authorities are stricter than before when examining pink slip applications, and they are stricter in a sense that they go through the documents of the source of income to prove that basically the applicant can live here without working.
What the procedure you need to do, the clients, to apply for the pink slip?
The procedure involves the submission of an application to the authorities. The presence, however, of the applicant is not required at that moment of the submission. We need to submit health insurance again. We need to submit bank guarantee issued by a banking institution here in Cyprus. So again, there is a requirement that the applicant opens a bank account. And here is the trick. The banks now in Cyprus do not accept the opening of a bank account without an alien's registration certificate, which alien registration certificate can only be issued by the immigration authorities if the pink slip applicant has a bank account. So this process contradicts.
Yeah, so
we face a dead end because a third country national who comes to Cyprus now and has no bank account cannot proceed with a pink slip application. Only those who were lucky before to establish a bank account when the requirements were not that strict back then.
Okay, for example, in Cyprus we have several banks. Bank of Cyprus, Hellenic, Eurobank, Astrobank, and in the same time we have the type of banks like Unlimit and eCompay and other payment system. Do this system are connected with the banks and they okay for the submit of application or not? Or our client need to open the bank account in the regular banks?
Unfortunately, as the current legislation stands, the immigration authorities only accept documents from banking institutions which are licensed by the Central Bank of Cyprus. So the answer here is that no payment institutions that are not licensed by the Central Bank of Cyprus can issue such documents that will be acceptable by the authorities.
So if you are from third countries and you have a plan to live in Cyprus, the most easiest way to invest in real estate in Cyprus and get the permanent residence for you and your family and to stay forever with these documents without yearly renewal on the pink slip or the working visas?
Well, truth is that with the work permit application, if you spend some time here in the island, there are some procedures that enables the work permit holder to acquire a more permanent status in Cyprus. So yes, the permanent residence application is a process that you follow if you have the funds to proceed with the investment. It's the easiest way, let's say. But if you do not have the funds and decide to provide employment to Cyprus, in a period of time, the applicant, the holder of a work permit, may obtain a permanent residency status, provided that a relevant application is made to the authorities.
Okay, lots of people ask us about the citizenship. Before 2020, we had in Cyprus the investment program, let's say, which called the passport program, and it was possibility to invest 2 million and got the passport of Cyprus for you and your family.
2.5 million, basically.
Yeah, and what we have now. Now lots of clients ask us about this, but as I know, there is no any program except the working visa and naturalization process.
Yes, that is correct. There is no citizenship program based on investment currently enforced. The one that was previously implemented, as you correctly said, has been revoked in 2020. So now the only available routes for obtaining and acquiring a citizenship is based on years of residency, which should be 7 years as per the normal process, or 5 years for particular categories of residents. There is the procedure of acquiring a citizenship based on marriage with a Cypriot citizen, and the citizenship application based on origins. So for a third country national to obtain the Cyprus citizenship, he or she should spend 7 years in the island.
And what about the program with IT and working permit visa? As I heard before, the new legislation is about you live 5 years in Cyprus, pay taxes, work with working permit, and you can apply after 5 years too.
Yes, this is available process for those who are holders of the Category E immigration permit. The Category E immigration permit is a permit that can be provided to a work permit holder. So a work permit holder can acquire a permanent residency, this is what we discussed before, by submitting an application for changing his status from temporary to permanent and acquire a Category E. So Category E permit holders may apply for a citizenship application on the basis of 5 years of residence in the island.
So if I understand, if you apply for the working permit, like working visa, in 5 years, you can apply for the category E, and after to apply for the citizenship.
It's not after 5 years of working visa. I've experienced in the past, one of my clients, we submitted an application after 3 years of residency in Cyprus because we could prove that my client had a real intention of permanently staying here. For example, the children used to go to school here in Cyprus. They joined an organization here and represented Cyprus abroad through the school. The work permit holder bought a house in Cyprus and made some other short investment programs. And therefore, we proved to the authorities that there is a strong bond of the holder of the work permit with Cyprus, and it was sufficient for granting the category E. So an interested party can submit for the category E within 3 years of residence in Cyprus. The category E takes approximately 1 year and a half to be examined, approximately. And then we can proceed with the citizenship application upon completion of 5 years.
Okay, one more question about the citizenship. Now in Cyprus, we have the, I think, very ancient law about the naturalization. Because, for example, I live in Cyprus around 10 years, and I have whole possibilities to apply for the Cyprus citizenship because I have house here, my kids here, I live here, my business here, everything is here, it's my country. But the law is telling that you need to stay 1 year here in Cyprus without any flight out of Cyprus. What is the law and when it will change?
The law is like you said, this is a requirement. The year before we proceed with the application, the applicant should not make any traveling. This is very difficult for many of our clients. It's almost impossible for those who have business operations abroad and they go often to business trips. But unfortunately, this is a requirement now. And if the applicant does not fulfill this requirement, he risks the rejection of his own citizenship application. So it's advisable before we proceed with any citizenship application based on years of residency that the applicant stays for at least 9, if not for the whole year, 9 months in Cyprus.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, where it could be changed?
There is no proposal at the moment for changing of this requirement. And to be honest, I'm not sure if this is going to change anytime soon.